Dominica's opposition leader implicated in an alleged plan to sell diplomatic passports. Our top story in Caribbean Newsline for Tuesday, November 26th. From the CMC News Center in Bridgetown, I'm Dawn Paris. Good evening. Leader of the United Workers' Party, UWP, Lennox Linton, is denying that he had anything to do with alleged promises of diplomatic passports for foreigners in exchange for funding for the party's election campaign. His denial on Tuesday came on the heels of a documentary aired on international news network Al Jazeera, which alleged that through his lawyer David Bruni, he promised a foreigner that if the UWP won the December 6th general election, he would be given the role of ambassador within 28 days. It was claimed in the investigative piece that Linton's lawyer created a memorandum of understanding to state that the promise would be made, and what appeared to be the signatures of both the lawyer and Linton were shown on the alleged document. The attorney Bruni was heard saying that he had Linton's trust.
Continue to advise. Through me, there's easy access to him.
Okay. Can you say you're speaking on his behalf, David?
Yes, I can say that.
Lennox Linton, the opposition leader, could become the next Prime Minister within weeks.
The opposition now really requires funding. Make no mistake, we are moving along, but as in all things, financial contributions are required.
The documentary also showed former Dominican Prime Minister Oliver Serafin offering to broker a secret deal to hand out an ambassadorship in Asia for fees totaling $470,000. But Linton says he has not spoken to nor seen Serafin in more than 5 years. He also denied having any conversation with Bruni to sell diplomatic passports, ambassadorships, or diplomatic immunity to anybody. And he said he could not claim any responsibility for what went down between Serafin and Bruni.
I felt, and the representation that was made to me by David, and David is somebody I know, going back many years. David is not just a friend, David is like a brother. And so I trusted his judgment. Was I right to do it or wrong to do it? That's besides the point. This is in the universe right now. It has happened, right? But the relationship or the discussion between me and David had nothing to do with any exchange of ambassadorship for money, any exchange of diplomatic immunity for money, any exchange of diplomatic passport for money. And indeed, the Al Jazeera report states clearly that the document they saw has no mention of any money or any campaign contribution. And I think that's a very important disclosure that the people who are looking at this are willing to gloss over. It's a very significant material disclosure from Al Jazeera, who has seen the document.
A few days ago, Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerritt, speaking ahead of the documentary's release, threatened legal action if any unfounded allegations were made against him. Staying in Dominica, the Prime Minister says electoral reform cannot be undertaken before next month's general election. He made the declaration even as the opposition leader called on President Charles Savarin to postpone the poll. Skerritt contends that calls by the UWP for electoral reform before the polls are aimed at creating chaos in the country, and he insisted that election reform could not be completed in less than a year based on the advice and the recommendations of the Electoral Commission. The Prime Minister added that if his government wanted electoral reform, it would push elections past the constitutional deadline. The opposition leader says his party has lodged in excess of 1,300 objections to the Electoral Commission ahead of the publication of the final list of voters, and he insists that the issue must be dealt with before Dominicans can cast their ballots. But Skerritt brushed aside his suggestions that he could have postponed the elections until some of the recommendations of a joint CARICOM, Commonwealth and OAS mission were put in place.
The call by the opposition for electoral reform at this time is a veneer being used by the UWP to confuse the public, create public unrest, incite violence, and provoke a confrontation with the police. Their goal ultimately is to stop elections and to justify external intervention in the national electoral process. The government has not tampered with the electoral laws in any way whatsoever. The current elections are being run and conducted under the same laws and processes that Dominica has had in place ever since independence for 41 years now. The UWP became the government with these laws, and the UWP became the opposition with these laws. The Dominica Labour Party was in opposition for a very long time, over 20 years, with these laws, and we contested the elections and became the government with these laws.
Skerritt is promising, though, that if his Dominica Labour Party DLP is successful in its quest to win an unprecedented 5th consecutive term in office, his administration would again make electoral reform a priority.
Electoral reform is a costly, protracted, and time-consuming exercise. Every Caribbean government has attempted electoral reform. The same is true in the Commonwealth of Dominica. It has been alleged that the Dominica Labour Party government, which is trying to stop electoral reform in Dominica. The allegation seems to be that government fears electoral defeat. Nothing could be further from the truth. As a matter of fact, we have been in discussions with a couple of our partners who are prepared to finance and to oversee and to coordinate on the country's behalf the electoral reform process. And a letter will go out tomorrow making that formal request, following on our conversations with those countries concerned. So the issue of electoral reform is that this government certainly is not fearful of anything whatsoever.
Meanwhile, Dominica's Police Commissioner Daniel Carbon has banned all motorcades ahead of the election. He took the decision following a meeting on Tuesday with the leaders of the governing DLP and the opposition UWP, as well as senior police officers. Carbon said he called the meeting to discuss applications that had been submitted by both parties to have motorcades on Sunday, the final weekend of campaigning, before voters go to the polls next Friday.
I have concerns over the security of the state. The general election campaign is highly politically charged. I have to take the safety of motorists, road users, pedestrians into consideration. There will also be 2 cruise ships in port on Sunday, the 1st of December 2019. And one of those cruise ships is a mega ship. Both parties came to the understanding and they decided that they will not have a motorcade.
Over in Jamaica, the Police Federation has expressed concern that lawmen are subjecting themselves to abuse from the public because of fear of being reported to the Independent Commission of Investigations, INDECOM. This comes against the background of videos showing members of the public attacking police, obstructing and assaulting them as they carry out their duties. And Chairman of the Federation, Detective Sergeant Patrea Rowe, has advised members of the Jamaica Constabulary Force to use as much force as is necessary in those situations.
Use as much force as is necessary to mitigate a threat against your life as an individual officer, a threat against the members of the public, and a threat against damage to property. We would like to see our officers demonstrate firm and solid action in instances where they need to use force, and the Police Federation will contemplate their defense thereafter.
Still to come, marijuana decriminalization in the spotlight in the Bahamas, Trinidad and Tobago, and St. Lucia. Stay with us.
Now the process is a little different and it'll surprise you, but you're gonna love the results. So let's get started. We'll start with the sauce for the filling. Place a medium saucepan over medium heat and melt in 8 tablespoons of unsalted butter. Stir in 3 tablespoons of flour and let that simmer for about a minute, whisking constantly. Next, whisk in 1/4 cup of water and 1 cup of sugar.
The Bahamas Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis says marijuana reform is a matter of social justice and has reiterated his support for decriminalizing possession of small amounts of the drug and expunging convictions. His comments come days before the Bahamas National Commission on Marijuana is due to deliver its report. Clint Watson of Eyewitness News has more.
The Bahamas regarding the possession of small amounts of marijuana have led to the arrest, prosecution, conviction, and punishment of many Bahamians. According to Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis, this is unfortunate and must change.
A lot of our young people, especially many who even working week to week with government, cannot be regularized. Individuals cannot get jobs. Individuals cannot travel. These are individuals who can make contribution to society, who complains every day that they want to make contribution, they want to go to university, etc. And this one element holds them back.
Dr. Minnis says he eagerly awaits the release of the report by the Bahamas National Commission on Marijuana. He says his government will use the report's finding to help reform the country's marijuana laws. As to whether he believes his public statement on his position on the matter will influence the board's decision,
No. My decision will not influence their report. They're doing their work, and they will do their work, and I await their report.
in a statement Sunday, the Prime Minister went as far as to suggest that part of this reform should be expunging the records of Bahamians convicted of small amounts of marijuana possession, saying having coming from the over-the-hill community, he has seen firsthand how our current laws especially harm young people from modest backgrounds. Dr. Minnis further noted that a Rehabilitation of Offenders Committee has been formed and is reviewing a number of matters for recommendation, including the possible expunging of some criminal records for possession of small amounts of marijuana. The government will also take into consideration their recommendations.
Over in Trinidad and Tobago, there's debate over whether the amount of marijuana government wants to make legal for possession is too little or too much. Last week, Attorney General Faris Al-Rawi introduced legislation to Parliament that would allow for the use of up to 30 grams of marijuana. The legislation provides for amounts more than 30 grams, but up to 60 grams to be treated by a fixed penalty or community service. But criminologist Professor Ramesh Diosaran believes that the under 90 grams limit without penalty is too low. TV6's Alicia Boucher tells us more.
The marijuana bill is gathering a lot of reactions for and against. Christian and Islamic groups are condemning the government's plan to decriminalize marijuana, while some Rastafarians and activists believe it's a move in the right direction. But does the legislation need adjusting? Well, criminologist Professor Ramesh Diosaran thinks so. He's questioning whether the 30 grams possession threshold is enough.
If you want to find a balance, I think that is too small an amount. Because if you go between 30 and 60 grams, you can be fined $50,000, you know, or some community service, 30 hours or so. So there is this ambivalence.
Professor Diosaran says technology for police would also have to be put in place to enable officers to determine whether or not someone has in fact gone above the legal limit. But he feels the legislation is in the very early stages when taking into account both the economic and health impact marijuana can have on TNT.
And I believe government is using it temporarily as an experiment to see, well, how the public will respond, because it's not law yet. You can't go and smoke marijuana home and thing.
The criminologist says opposition to the legislation will only serve as a hindrance from this country moving forward. But he feels pressure from the public and some parliamentarians alike, in addition to CARICOM progress on the matter, made it necessary.
Within that CARICOM framework, the government had to do something. especially pushed by the CARICOM report on the marijuana.
Diosaran believes it is also a tactic being used to generate a popular vote in the upcoming local government election.
Meantime, St. Lucia has launched a cannabis commission as the island moves to decriminalize the drug. Commerce Minister Bradley Felix says government is committed to reviewing the cannabis laws to ensure that a balanced and holistic approach is taken. The commission is expected to consult on a number of issues critical to the design of new laws for restricted use of cannabis. It's expected to present a report to government before the end of the year. Ahead in sport, regional Super 50 reigning champions CCC Marooners out of the competition. We'll be right back.
When you think of what we went through with Hurricane Irma, you had to be able to recognize what are the things we need to do to cope with the aftermath. The psychological trauma, to me, is probably the most telling on a lot of people.
Preparedness is the key. So when people are prepared, when people have what their resources in terms of how they can cope with the disaster, they're better able to be able to return to their normal life. They're better able to make decisions that are informed for themselves and for their family, and then for their community. Be ready, look, listen, and link.
You say that you okay. If you stick with me, you'll be much better. Baby, it's whatever. It's a dead end, girl. It's a one-way street. Just been here trying to work it out to see. Should I leave or is this worth it?
Let me start with you, Mr. Wimstone. What would need to happen? You say you support this. What needs to be there first?
Well, cities are more than buildings, as has been said here. And unfortunately, we're not hearing the discourse about the other things. Public space, public parks, proper pedestrian-friendly streets, a general...
What's that?
It's streets with proper sidewalks.
He's the brother of dancehall artist Version. Let's hear what up-and-coming DJ Jumbo is bringing to the table in this week's Up Next segment.
Jumbo means big, enormous. And in a few years from now, I see myself as the biggest thing in dancehall.
What inspires your work?
I would say anything inspires my work, you know. It's just that past experience. I talk about what I've been through and what my experience in my life and just go forward with it.
Time for sports now. Paul Palmer's maiden List 800 went in vain as reigning champions CCC Marooners said goodbye to the Regional Super 50 Cup with a 51-run defeat to Minnows, Canada on Monday. Sent in to bat, Canada got up to 252 all out of their 50 overs. Opener Rayan Pathan struck a lively 41 ball 46, while Kaleem Sana produced a busy 38 off 37 deliveries at number 9. Pathan put on 44 for the first wicket with Ajit Mehta before speedster Jalarni Seals struck twice in the 10th over to reduce the innings to 47 for 2. In reply, Marooners were slumping at 17 for 3 in the 5th over after Harsh Thacker struck twice with the new ball in the 4th over as Canada got the better of the early exchanges. Palmer then stitched up the innings in a 103-run 4th wicket stand with opener Morris as Marooners made a recovery. Left-hander Palmer faced 123 balls and counted 12 fours, while Romain Morris belted a 6 and a 4 in a 59-ball innings. The defeat was Marooners' 6th in 8 games and the victory Canada's 2nd, also from their complement of 8 matches. Meantime, United States medium pacer Rusty Theron snatched 2 wickets in a magnificent last over to deny Guyana Jaguars a crucial victory and a place in the final 4 of the regional Super 50. Initially set to 231 for victory in a game reduced to 41 overs, the target was revised to 222 from 36 overs following a rain delay, with Jaguars well placed on 71 for 2 in the 16th over. Chris Barnwell continued his impressive form with a top score of 54, his 3rd half-century of the campaign, while Anthony Bramble chipped in with 38 and all-rounder Raymond Reefer 33. And a 3-wicket haul by leg spinner Imran Khan and pacer Anderson Phillip gave TNT Red Force a comfortable 10-wicket victory over West Indies emerging players at the Queen's Park Oval. Khan picked up 3 wickets with 19 runs, while Phillips' figures of 3 for 23 condemned the Windies team to its lowest total of 78 in 20 overs. Justin Graves was the only batsman to make a significant contribution with his knock of 43. The hosts had no trouble rolling over the total after the partnership between opening batsmen Jeremy Solozano and Keegan Simmons. Solozano remained not out on 43, while Simmons added an unbeaten 27. Despite the crushing defeat for the West Indies emerging players, they will move into the semi-finals as they sit on 2nd spot in Group B with 18 points. Red Force already secured their spot in the final 4 after their 6-wicket win against Guyana Jaguars over the weekend. Still in cricket, stroke maker Kimani Melius has been named to lead a 15-man West Indies squad to the ICC Under-19 Cricket World Cup, which bowls off in South Africa next January. The right-hander, who hails from St. Lucia, is one of 3 surviving members from the disappointing campaign in New Zealand last year. Left-arm spinner Ashmead Ned and seamer Naeem Young have also been included. West Indies Under-19s will clash with England Under-19s and Sri Lanka Under-19s in a Tri-Nations series next month before heading to the showpiece, which runs from January 17th to February 9th. Melius, who averaged 38 at the last Under-19 World Cup, will lead the batting unit, while selectors have opted for a strong pace element in order to exploit conditions in South Africa. West Indies Under-19s entered the 2018 showpiece as defending champions, but finished 3rd in Group A to miss out on a quarter-final spot and eventually finished 10th overall. They will do battle in a tough Group B alongside England, Australia and Nigeria, with the top 2 teams from each group advancing to the next round. Switching sports now, the Belize Under-18 national volleyball team is beaming with pride after claiming precious medal in the just concluded Central American Female Volleyball Championships in San Carlos, Costa Rica over the weekend. They crushed El Salvador in 3 sets, 25-12 in the first and 25-22 in the second and third, to claim the silver medal. Earlier, they lost the hosts Costa Rica, but finished with the most individual medals. Gareth Bruce won the Best Scorer and Best Attacker awards, while Sofia Solano was named Best Defensive Player. Speaking to Channel 5 Belize, Bruce recounted her experience in the final game.
The experience, it was just nothing that wasn't here in Belize. We just went out and we lost focus in the game against Costa Rica, which we could have won, but I guess everything happens for a reason, I guess.
Assistant coach Lawrence Bennett says the girls' silver medal finish came as a surprise.
We didn't expect to place that high, but the girls' work out here was a little bit down, but getting there, everybody's spirits came up. First couple games, we did well, beat the 2 teams well against Costa Rica. We had a little downs. I think Costa Rica is a more, you could say, a team that used to pressure. We are not used to pressure like that. We're getting there, but we haven't reached here. The last game against Salvador, we know we would have won. The 2 teams are very friendly, but on the court, we showed that we wanted silver, and we didn't need any help of the other teams to help us.
Top Bermudian triathlete Tyler Butterfield secured his place at the Ironman World Championships in Kona, Hawaii by winning the Ironman Cozumel in spectacular fashion in Mexico at the weekend, beating his nearest rival by more than 3 minutes. Fresh from his victory at the Ironman Cozumel, Butterfield produced perhaps the best performances of his triathlon career to clock an impressive overall time of 7 hours, 44 minutes and 1 second to become one of just a handful of triathletes to break the 7-hour 45-minute barrier for the 4-kilometer swim, 180-kilometer bike, and a 42-kilometer run. Butterfield started solidly and emerged from the water in 42 minutes 10 seconds, just 3 minutes off the lead in the 15th place, but well in touch with his main rivals, including Tim O'Donnell, who finished second at the Ironman World Championships in October. And finally, Ghana's amateur boxers are set to defend their title at next month's Caribbean Boxing Championship in Trinidad and Tobago. HGP's Jaden Samuels tells us more.
Defending champs Guyana can feel a whole lot better as preparation continues for the locals to defend their CBC title in Trinidad and Tobago from December 4 to 9. Encampment for the region's premier box-off will commence at the National Gymnasium this Tuesday, following which the team will wing out to the Twin Island Republic on the morning of December 4. Guyana will field a 22-man team spearheaded by two of the most fearsome young boxers in the region, young bantamweight Kevin Alicock and Desmond Amsterdam, operating in the middleweight category. HGP Sport spoke with Sport Director Christopher Jones earlier on Monday regarding the ministry's contribution ahead of the championship.
The ministry given them the tax waivers on all of their tickets and whatnot. We're providing them with the transportation to get to the airport and back. We're providing them with accommodation at the gymnasium for the encampment, which will start from tomorrow. And the NSE has given them $500,000, I think.
And that's the sport. We'll be right back.
Barbados, it's time for you to experience and be part of the all-new Hennessy Artistry. December 7th, Kensington Oval, making his debut performance in Barbados, Davido.
If I tell you, say I love you, oh.
Dexter Daps. Massacre. Anthony B.
Nobody want to plant the
Taurus Riley.
I rather to live under All-Star.
And Barbados' best hyper sounds. Edwin Yearwood. And Lead Pipe. Hosted by Major Hype and Peter Coppin. Showtime 9 p.m. General tickets $100 and the all-inclusive Privilege Lounge $350, regular $400. The all-new Hennessy Artistry.
CaribVision is now included in the OneSpot Media subscription package. It's simple. Search for onespotmedia.com, then log in, scroll over to the Live TV and Radio tab, and select CVTV from the drop-down menu, and watch the latest in Caribbean culture, news, and sports. It's that simple. CaribVision is now on OneSpot Media. Subscribe today.
OneSpotMedia.com.
And that's Caribbean Newsline for news and sport round the clock. Subscribe to CanadaNews.com, and for more of our programming, log on to CaribVision.tv and check out our YouTube channel. We'll be back here again tomorrow, but from all of us at CNC News, thank you for watching and have yourselves a good night.